Imagine waking up one morning with the absolute, unshakable conviction that you are no longer alive. This isn't a metaphor for depression or a feeling of numbness. To you, your heart has stopped beating. Your brain has shut down. Your internal organs have rotted away into nothingness. You are a walking, breathing corpse, and the world around you is no longer the land of the living. It is a personal, eternal hell. This is the reality of Cotard's delusion, often called walking corpse syndrome. While it is a recognized neuropsychiatric condition, for those experiencing it, the horror is entirely real. Perhaps the most chilling documented case is that of a man known in medical literature as Graham. Graham had suffered a severe accident. After he was discharged, his mother took him to South Africa. But as they stepped off the plane, Graham was convinced he had entered the underworld. He believed he had died before leaving the airport. He told his doctors that the heat of the South African sun was proof he was in the pits of hell. He once described the sensation to a psychiatrist, saying, "I just felt like I was in hell. I didn't have any other explanation for why I was still moving when I knew I was dead. I felt my flesh rotting. I could smell the decay on my own breath, even though the doctors told me I was healthy." Graham's descent into the abyss began after a severe bout of depression. One day, the switch simply flipped. He told his doctors that his brain had died. He didn't mean he was having trouble thinking. He meant that his physical brain had literally ceased to exist within his skull. He lost his sense of smell and taste. He stopped eating because, as he put it, there is no point in feeding a dead man. The psychological horror of Cotard's is unique because it strips away the most fundamental layer of human instinct, the drive to survive. Graham spent his days in a state of perpetual mourning for himself. He began frequenting the local graveyard, not because he was suicidal, but because he felt he belonged there. He would sit among the headstones for hours, waiting for the other dead to recognize him as one of their own. He felt a deep sense of peace in the cemetery that he couldn't find anywhere else, convinced that the people walking on the sidewalk outside the gates were of a different species entirely. The terror for Graham's family was equally profound. They watched a man they loved turn into a ghost while he was still standing in front of them. He looked at his own hands and saw bone. He looked in the mirror and saw a spirit. No amount of logic could sway him. When doctors showed him his own brain scans, which showed perfectly normal activity, Graham didn't feel relief. Instead, he became more terrified. To him, the scans were fakes, or proof that he was being haunted by a technological illusion. Neurologists eventually discovered that Graham's brain was in a state of metabolic hibernation. Parts of his brain responsible for consciousness and the inner self were operating at levels seen only in people in a vegetative state or under deep anesthesia. He was, in a very literal, biological sense, a living ghost. While Graham eventually improved with intensive therapy and medication, his story remains a terrifying testament to the fragility of our perception. We take for granted the feeling of being, but Graham proved that if the right circuit in your brain breaks, you could spend the rest of your life convinced that you are a rotting inhabitant of the afterlife, trapped in a body that refuses to stop moving. Sometimes, late at night, he still has to remind himself, "I'm alive. This is real. I'm not in hell." But what if, somewhere, someone with Cotard's delusion is watching this right now, absolutely convinced that this is just another layer of their punishment, another trick their dead mind is playing on them?